Hi, I'm J.R. McConvey. Thanks for joining me today in my garden shed for a reading from my debut collection, Different Beasts, which won the Kobo Emerging Writer Prize for Speculative Fiction this year. It's a book that's about what it means to be both human and monster. And in the story I'm going to read to you from today, it's called Sheepasnorus Rex. There are a few scenes that take place in a garden shed, so I thought it would be an appropriate venue for the reading. When we pick up the story, our protagonist, Craig, is a tired new parent, and he has become frustrated with a sleep aid of his baby daughters, specifically a Sheepasnorus, which is sort of like a sleep sheep, but not trademarked. And so, in frustration, he has cast this unsatisfactory toy out to the shed, exiled it, if you will, and just after he does this is where we join him and his wife, Elise. This is from Sheepasnorus Rex. That night, Rosette wailed for a full hour before falling asleep. Elise kept giving Craig stern looks, but on this he wouldn't budge. The sheep was staying outside. After a marathon of horse lullabies, he agreed to a compromise and called up a white noise app on his phone, and the baby finally fell into an exhausted calm. Afterwards, they sat, frazzled and limp, over bowls of turkey chili. Craig drank beer and Elise had lemonade, and they watched Mad Men on TV until 10:30, when their eyes began to droop, and the foot massage Craig was giving Elise dwindled to a feeble pinching of her big toe. They went quietly up to bed, Craig hyper-aware of every creaky step or popping of his ankle. Tired as he was, a good rest was still months away. Tonight there'd be a 3 a.m. feed and another in early morning before 7. When they got into bed, he picked up the thick paperback copy of Stephen King's It that he'd been reading for the past 4 months, stared at the page for 10 minutes, then fell asleep with the book on his chest. Sometime later, he woke to a twinge in his bladder. He resisted opening his eyes to look at the clock. The air smelled of old sweat. Dust tickled his throat. He thought about that afternoon, about Sheepasnorus out in the shed, condemned to slump on the cluttered workbench amid pine shavings and cobwebs and rusty screws. In the moment, it seemed absurd to have exiled an inanimate stuffy that was helping them through this lunacy. Something churned in his gut, and he felt a belch push up into his esophagus. He sat up to let it out, and the book tumbled from his chest onto the floor with a thump that made him wince. He reached to get it, and when he rose again, the monster was there, in front of him. It perched at the foot of the bed, huge and damp, breathing in heavy rasps, its wide black eyes glossy and indifferent. Milky goo streamed from its slug-like lips and dripped down a belly as broad and pale as boiled haggis. Its curled horns were calcified into scaly bone, and it had a tufted Satan beard of corn silk hair under its blunt nose. A pair of hooves jutted from its torso, wavering as though unmoored from the consciousness of its body as it swayed ever so slightly back and forth on rumpled haunches of pink skin. Its presence keened through Craig's body like antifreeze. His mind screamed, "What the fuck? What the fuck?" Even though he knew. There was no way it could be real, this gross, corpulent hallucination of his daughter's mechanical sleep aid, sheep aid, snorasaur, piece of junk, plastic god. This was exhaustion, or as Ativan mixed with one too many Budweisers. "Hello, Carl," it said. Craig felt a reaching in his diaphragm, an upchuck of words. "My name's Craig." "It doesn't matter," said Sheepasnorus. Its voice issued from somewhere near its groin, calm and deep, layered and laced with a tape-like hiss. Craig looked at Elise. She was asleep, her face round and peaceful. She couldn't hear the ghost. "I'm also a ghost," Craig thought. The thing wheezed, weeping fluid. "I'm in the garage, Carl. I can't soothe in distant." Was it revenge, an omen? Had he been drugged, brainwashed? Could he possibly be tired enough that he was hallucinating? He resisted the urge to talk back to the thing. "You're tired. I can help you." "I don't want your help," Craig said by reflex. It was all fine, fine. "You know Rosette can't sleep without me," said Sheepasnorus. "She's sleeping now." "It won't last, Carl." It paused, oozing. "I have the soul of your child." "No, no," Craig almost shouted, loud enough to wake the baby. He put a hand to his mouth, bit down on his index finger. "I can also provide for you." said Shebus Norris. Its black tongue flashed out, curling into a swizzle. Your friends are all richer than you. You'll never play soccer. I know about the Whopper lunches, Carl. Accept it. You're not really here. Leave your body behind. I'll make sure it continues caring for the woman and child. For your soul, there is a better place. Craig's mind reeled, conjuring hilly roads, ocean vistas, mountaintop palaces, a white beach house in San Diego, pina colada glasses frosted with condensation, palm leaves, lightness, distance. Himself, strong, but without weight. Then the smell of Rosette's hair hit him, warm and sweet and cookie-like, and he felt something being pulled from within his body, like a knot of chewed food dragged up through his intestine. Shebus Norris drew its steaming, muttony snout close to his face and lashed its tongue across his pajama-clad chest, probing. We're famished, Carl. Famished forever. This isn't happening. The bounty of youth has passed. Shebus Norris sat back, licking its chops. Now is the time of sacrifice. Hooves flailing, it arched its snout skyward, revealing a patchy wattle of veins, and began a mad, desperate panting, punctuated with cracked bleats, which quickly rose into a sound like a chainsaw ripping through bark, splintering ice. In the morning, he remembered coming to in front of the open fridge, staring into its humming depths at shelves full of half-wrapped cheeses and jalapeno jellies, clutching a leftover meatball sub like a burning torch, unsure of how he'd gotten downstairs, but aware of a pressure in his temples that was unfamiliar to him. Elise came and met him on his way back to the bedroom, saying, "You all right? I saw you weren't in bed." Her face blue in the shadows. A holy thing. Thanks for listening.